Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Om Gnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Canto 6, Chapter 1, Verse 1. History of the life of Ajamila. श्रीपरीक्षितुवाच निवृत्तिमार्गकथित आदौ भगवता यथा क्रमयोगोपलब्धेन ब्रह्मणा यद असंश्रुतिः. Maharaj Parikshit said, O my Lord, O Shukadeva Goswami, you have already described in the second canto the path of Nivritti Marga. By following the path, one is certainly elevated gradually to the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, from which one is promoted to the spiritual world along with Lord Brahma. Thus, one's repetition of birth and death in the material world ceases. Okay, so this is the Nivritti Marga, mm, the path of liberation. So, by this path of liberation, one is certainly elevated gradually to the highest planetary system. So, this is Krama Mukti. Krama Mukti, which means gradual elevation, gradual liberation, from which one is promoted to the spiritual world along with Lord Brahma. Thus, one's repetition of birth and death in the material world ceases. So, for these verses, I'm going to read purports from Srila Prabhupada and also Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Since Maharaj Parikshit was a Vaishnava, when he heard the description at the end of the fifth canto of the different hellish conditions of life, so we didn't read this. So there is a description of all the various hells at the end of the fifth canto. So as a Vaishnava, he was very much concerned with how to liberate the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya and take them back home, back to Godhead. Of course, he knew that himself is a Vaishnava, so he doesn't have to be worried about these hellish conditions. But he was very much concerned how to liberate the conditioned souls. Therefore, he reminded his spiritual master Shukadeva Goswami about the Nivritti Marga or path of liberation, which he had described in the second canto. Maharaj Parikshit, who at the time of death was fortunate to have met Shukadeva Goswami, inquired from Shukadeva Goswami about the path of liberation at that crucial time. Shukadeva Goswami very much appreciated his question and congratulated him by saying, this was in second canto, chapter 1, verse 1. Variyane te prashna kruto loka hitam nripa atmavitsammatah pumsam sotavyadishu yapparaha variyan yeshate prashnaha. So actually, Shukadeva Goswami asks two questions. One is, what is the responsibility of a person in his life, and especially though that one, especially for the one who is about to die, what should he hear? Uh, what what is that verse? Where is that? 19 chapter. Yeah, 1.9.24. So he asks basically how to live and how to live. Yet shrotavyam atha japyam yet kartavyam nribihi smartavyam bhajaniyam va viparyayam. So he's saying yet shrotavyam, what should we hear? So Japyam, what should one chant? Yat Kartavyam, what should one do? Dribihi, this is all for human beings. Smartavyam, what should one remember? Bhajaniyam, what should one worship? Va Viparyayam, and what he should not do. So what should one hear, chant, do, remember, worship? So five things he's asking. Mainly with respect to the duties of a person who's about to die. And so two questions: how to live and how to live, how to live and how to live, and five aspects: how, what to hear, what to chant, what to do, what to remember, what to worship, and what not to. What not to hear, what not to chant, what not to do, what not to remember, what not to worship. So these were questions that he had asked, and as an appreciation of these questions, in the first verse of the so Shukadev Goswami actually starts speaking in the second canto, and the first verse he's congratulating. Varyan eshate prashnaha. Varyan means very, very good, very great. Why? Because kruto loka hitam drapa. Because they are for the loka hita, for the benefit of the loka, of all kinds of people. Atmavit sammataha pumsan. Shrotavyadishu yapparaha. So the answer to this question is yapparaha, is the most supreme amongst all subjects to be heard, prime subject matter. Mm. And Atmavit Sammataha, those who are Atmavit, all transcendentalists, Sammataha, they have approved these questions. So it's the, and the whole of Bhagavatam is actually answer to these questions. Parikshit Maharaj was astonished that the living entities in the conditional state do not accept the path of liberation, devotional service. Of course, Prabhupada, we are not interested in liberation, right? We are interested in devotional service. Instead of suffering in so many hellish conditions, so suffering from hellish conditions can be, one can be relieved from that either through the path of liberation, then definitely through the path of devotional service. This is the symptom of a Vaishnava. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha. Vaishnava is an ocean of mercy. Paradukha dukhi. To the extent we have become an ocean of mercy, to that extent we have made progress in Krishna consciousness. To the extent we are self-centered, to that extent we have to make progress in Krishna consciousness. And being self-centered is our conditioned state. We should understand that. When we sit for prasadam, first we are worried about, oh, my prasadam. That is self-centered. We go for prasadam, we first think, okay, have all the devotees got prasadam. That is a Vaishnava. Paradukha dukhi. He is unhappy because of the unhappiness of others. Actually, a Vaishnava feels the experiences, the unhappiness of others. In the sense, he knows how much the conditioned souls are suffering. So what he does, he becomes compassionate. So Parikshit Maharaj became compassionate toward the conditioned souls. And this compassion is not material compassion. This is spiritual compassion. This is compassion for the Atma, that it has forgotten the Supreme Lord and relationship with the Supreme Lord and is suffering. So he suggested that Shukadeva Goswami continue describing the path of liberation. The word asamsruti is very important. Samsruti means, refers to continuing the path of birth and death. Asamsruti, on the contrary, refers to Nivritti Marga, or the path of liberation, by which one's birth and death cease and one gradually progresses to Brahma Loka. Unless one is a pure devotee who does not care about going to the higher planetary systems, in which case one immediately returns. So there are two paths. One is a direct path, the another is the gradual path. So this Nivritti Marga is a gradual path Prabhupada is speaking about. Of course, Nivritti Marga can also result in Sayujya Mukti, but we are not interested in Sayujya Mukti. So even the Nivritti Marga can give one devotion, can give one liberation, going back home, back to Godhead. Um, Parikshit Maharaj, therefore, was very eager to hear from Shukadeva Goswami about the path of liberation for the conditioned soul. According to the opinion of Acharyas, the word Krama Yogopalabdhena indicates that by first performing Karma Yoga and then Gnana Yoga, and finally coming to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, one can be liberated. Bhakti Yoga is, however, so powerful that it does not depend on Karma Yoga or Gnana Yoga. However, Karma Yoga and Gnana Yoga depend on Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti yoga itself is so powerful that even an impious man with no assets in karma yoga or an illiterate with no assets in gnana yoga can undoubtedly be elevated to the spiritual world if he simply adheres to bhakti yoga. Me mame vaishyasya asamshayah, Krishna says. Asamshayah, undoubtedly. He'll come to me. Yogis, however, instead of going directly to the spiritual world, sometimes want to see other planetary systems. So the Ashtanga yoga process. uh, so they still have some material desires. So in Ashtanga yoga process also there are two processes. One where there are no material desires, where the yogi actually meditates directly on the Paramatma in the heart. Then there is the one who has material desires, who actually meditates on the Virat Rupa. After worshipping on Virat Rupa, if his desires are gone, then he will come to the meditation on the Paramatma, and then he will achieve liberation. But if he still has desires, even after meditating on the Virat Rupa, he will go through this Krama Mukti. That means he'll go to the higher planets, Mahaloka, Janloka, Tapaloka, then Satyaloka. Then with Brahma, the time of dissolution, he goes to the spiritual world. That's what is being explained here. Brahmana sahate sarve samprapte pratisanchare parasyante kritatmanah pravishanti param padam. Pravishanti padam padam. Brahmana saha. Brahmana saha. Along with Brahma. Samprapte pratisanchare parasyante kritatmanah. Parasya ante. At the end. Dissolution. Then pravishanti parampadam. They enter the parampadam, the supreme abode. Sorry, my throat is a bit off. Okay, so now I'm reading from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The fifth canto describes sthana, maintenance of the inhabitants of Bhuloka, Patala Loka, and heavenly planets, and those who are situated there with their rules for living. So fifth canto defined the sthana, maintenance of inhabitants of Bhuloka or different planetary systems. The protection given to devotees, even if they sometimes transgress the laws of dharma, is called poshana by the wise. So very important. Protection given to devotees, even if they sometimes transgress the laws of dharma, is called poshana. Sinful Ajamila is considered a devotee, and Indra, even though he was offensive to Guru, is also considered a devotee. Indra was offensive to his Guru, right? We know that. Brahaspati. Ajamila was sinful, but he was also considered a devotee. Indra was also considered a devotee. Giving protection to Ajamila and Indra, as well as Chitraketu, in the 19 chapters of 6th canto, shows the Lord's affection for the devotee. That's why I said it's a very beautiful canto. And this is Poshana. This is the protection to Ajamila and to devotees in general. And specifically here, Ajamila, Indra, Chitraketu. 3 devotees are discussed. So there is outline. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is giving the outline. 3 chapters tell the story of Ajamila. 6 chapters describe Vishwarupa. 8 chapters describe the story of Rudrasura. So Vishwarupa, so that is Indra. Uh, then 8 chapters describe the story of Rudrasura. 2 chapters describe the birth of the Maruts, in which Indra observes Diti as she performs vows. First chapter describes the words of servants of Yama when the servants of Vishnu come to rescue Ajamila. Hearing of the suffering of men falling to hell, Parikshit became compassionate to them. He reveals that he has understood the meaning of what was previously explained in order to produce enthusiasm in Shukadeva, so that he will answer his question about how to deliver the suffering people. Yatha means suitably. Shukadeva mentioned the path of liberation in the 2nd canto. So by this gradual path, the person attains liberation along with Brahma. So this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying. Verse 2. Pravritti lakshanaschaiva traigunya vishayo mune yosav alina prakriter gunasarga puna puna. O great says Shukadeva Goswami, unless the living entity is freed from the infection of material modes of nature, pravritti lakshana, and he becomes so Trigunya Vishaya becomes absorbed in this Trigunya. He receives different types of bodies in which to enjoy or suffer, and according to the body, he is understood to have various inclinations. By following these inclinations, he traverses the path called Pravritti Marga, by which one may be elevated to the heavenly planets as you described in the third canto. So first is described second canto. In the second canto is described Nivritti Marga. Prashik Maharaj is saying, then in the third canto you discuss Pravritti Marga. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitrvrataha Bhutani Yanti Bhute Jamad Yanti Madhyajinopi Mam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship me will live with me. Because of the influence of the various modes of nature, living entities have various tendencies or propensities, and therefore they are qualified to achieve various destinations. As long as one is materially attached, he wants to be elevated to material planets because of his attraction to the material world. Supreme Personality declares, however, those who worship me come to me. If one has no information about the Supreme Lord and his abode, one tries to be elevated only to a higher planetary, higher material position. But when one concludes that in this material world there is nothing but repeated birth and death, he tries to return home back to God. Generally, new people to Krishna consciousness, when we ask what is the goal of life, they'll say go to Swarga because they think that is actually mukti. Hmm. If one attains that destination, Goloka, he need never return to this material world. Chaitanya Charitamrita says Brahmanda Brahmite. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says Brahmanda Brahmite kono bhagyavan jeev Guru Krishna prasade paaye bhakti lata bij. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering through the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems. Some are going down into the lower planetary system. Brahmande Brahmite. Brahmana, wandering. Out of millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. Guru Krishna Prasadepai. By the mercy of both Guru and Krishna, such a person receives the seed of creeper of devotional service. And then, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that seed has to be watered. The watering process is Shravanam Kirtanam. And along with that, we should also pluck out the weeds, which also seem like the creeper, but they're actually unwanted plants. Weeds are going to kill the creeper if they are not eradicated at the right time. So both have to be done. Nurturing has to be done, and also elimination of unwanted things, anarthas, also has to be done. All living entities are rotating through the universe, going sometimes higher, going sometimes to the lower planets. This is the material disease which is known as pravritti marga. When one becomes intelligent, he takes to nivritti marga. And thus, instead of rotating, he returns home back to Godhead. This is necessary. Yeah, so commentary Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying in the third canto, you have described the symptoms of material enjoyment. Traigunya Vishaya means having the goal of happiness on Swarga. There is repeated birth by gunas for those persons who have not destroyed Prakriti and are subject to samsara. Same thing. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's language is a bit cryptic. But if you got used to Prabhupada's language, then we can understand. अधर्मलक्षणा नाना नरकाश्चानुवर्णिताः मन्वन्तरस्य व्याख्याता आद्यस्वायम्भवो यतः. You also described at the end of the fifth canto the varieties of hellish life that result from impious activities. And you described in the fourth canto the first Manvantara, which was presided over by Swayambhava Manu, the son of Lord Brahma. Of course, Parikshit Maharaj is not saying which canto. Prabhupada is adding here for our understanding. Priyavratat, Priyavratat उत्तनापदोर्वंशस्तच्चरितानि च द्वीपवर्षसमुद्राद्रीनद्युद्यानः वनस्पतीन् धरामण्डलसंस्थानं भागलक्षणमानतः ज्योतिषां विवराणां च यथेदम् असृजद्विभुः. My dear Lord, you describe the dynasties and characteristics of King Prayavata and Uttanapada. Supreme Person of God created this material world with various universes, planetary systems, planets, and stars, with varied lands, seas, oceans, mountains, etc., all with different characteristics. These are divided among this planet Earth, the luminaries in the sky, and the lower planetary systems. You clearly describe these planets and the living entities who live on them. So, Parishit Maharaj is just, just showing that he has been attentively hearing whatever Shukadev Goswami has been saying. Because just imagine, so much of information has been spoken by four cantos by Shukadev Goswami directly, right? Second, third, fourth, fifth. Of course, in the middle, it's the conversation of Maitreya and Vidura, but those topics have been discussed. And Shukadev Goswami has been speaking continuously, Parikshit Maharaj has been hearing continuously, but Parikshit Maharaj has been absorbing everything. Mm. So he's so nicely summarizing what all has been spoken so far. Uh, Atheists try to conceal the hand of God which is present in every creation, but they cannot explain how all these creations could come into existence without a competent intelligence and almighty power behind them. Simply to imagine or speculate is a waste of time. So we should not imagine or speculate about anything. You have to hear from Shastra. Lord says, Am Sarvasya Prabho, Matta Sarvam Pravartate. Whatever is coming, whatever exists is emanating from me. Iti matva bhajante maam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Very important verse. Iti matva, having known this, bhajate maam. One becomes firmly fixed. One does bhajana of Krishna. One worships Krishna. How? Buddha, with intelligence, bhava samanvitaha. With full of bhava, which is devotional service. And he surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna. Unfortunately, the unintelligent cannot immediately understand Krishna's supremacy. Nonetheless, if they associate with devotees and read authorized books, they may gradually come to the proper understanding. Although this may take many, many births. Just imagine. Coming to the proper understanding takes many, many births. So if we have come to the correct understanding, we have gone past all those. Bhavanam janmanam ante. Gnanavan mam prapadyate. So ultimately, we have to surrender to Krishna. That is the end of all jnana. Vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. Such a soul is very great who considers Vasudeva as everything. Mm. So we can understand our very fortunate position that we have come to surrender to Krishna and we are in the process of properly understanding everything, which generally takes for Gnanis many, many births. But for devotees, it's very easy because Krishna says, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Krishna will give us the intelligence if you have surrendered to him. Mm, okay. Okay. So now he asks the question he's meant to ask. Aduneha Mahabhaga Yathaiva Narakan Naraha Nanogra Yatanam Neyat Tan Me Vyakhyatum Arhasi. Oh, greatly fortunate and opulent Shukadev Goswami. Now kindly tell me how human beings may be saved from having to enter hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains. In the 26th chapter of the 5th canto, Shukadev Goswami has explained that people who commit sinful acts are forced to enter hellish planets and suffer. Now Maharaja Parikshit, being a devotee, is concerned with how this can be stopped. Now Vaishnava is paradukha dukhi. In other words, he has no personal troubles. Either he has no personal troubles at all. Even if he has personal troubles, it's not very important for him. But he is very unhappy to see others in trouble. Prahlad Maharaj said, My Lord, I have no personal problems, for I have learned how to glorify your transcendental qualities and thus enter a trance of ecstasy. Huh? I know how to glorify you and also enter a trance of ecstasy by that glorification. That means no external consciousness. I don't think I'm the body. Yeah. And so I have no personal problems, but I do have a problem. For I am simply thinking of these rascals and fools who are busy with Maya Sukha. This is Prabhupada, rascals and fools. Hmm. So who are busy with Maya Sukha, temporary happiness, without knowledge of devotional service unto you. Hmm. So it's also very unfortunate if even after coming to devotional service, we engage in Maya Sukha. Hmm. This is a problem faced by a Vaishnava because a Vaishnava fully takes shelter of the Supreme Lord. He personally has no problems. So look at this. This means one who has fully taken shelter of Supreme Lord takes away all his problems. So you'll actually not have any problems. Huh? But because he's compassionate toward the fallen conditioned souls, he's always thinking of plans to save them from their hellish life in this body and the next. Parikshit therefore anxiously wanted to know from Shukadeva Goswami how humanity can be saved from gliding down to hell. Shukadeva Goswami had already explained how people enter hellish life, and he could also explain how they could be saved from it. Intelligent men must take advantage of these instructions. Unfortunately, however, the entire world is lacking Krishna consciousness, and therefore people are suffering from the grossest ignorance and do not even believe in a life after this one. To convince them of their next life is very difficult because they become almost mad in their pursuit of material enjoyment. Nevertheless, our duty, the duty of all sane men, is to save them. Maharaj Parikshit is the representative one who can save them. Hmm. So here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, just as the means of attaining fortunate and unfortunate results should be known, the means of extinguishing the unfortunate results also should be known. Meaning, how can one be saved from naraka, from hellish suffering? Hmm. So we have to be conscious. So first of all, we have to practice bhakti in such purity that we will come to the stage of having no problems. Then, of course, we don't have to wait for that. But in parallel, we should also develop this quality of compassion and become paradukka dukhi, where we are always pained by the suffering of others and we are always thinking of plans to save them. And this mood actually makes us serious in devotion, and um, we will make progress so that we personally will not have problems. Because if personally we have problems, how can we help others? Mm. So, but by wanting to help others, Krishna gives us mercy. It can be the cause for Krishna to release his mercy to us, even though might be unqualified. Mm. But this is the important thing, to always think about the welfare of others. So Shukadeva Goswami starts answering. Sri Sukha Uvacha, न पचितिं यथाम् असः कृतस्य कुर्यान् मन उक्तपाणिभिः ध्रुवं स वै प्रेत्य नरकानुपैति ये कीर्तितः मे भवतस्तिग्मयातनः यातनाः. Sukadeva Goswami replied, my dear king, if before one's next death, whatever impious acts one has performed in this life with his mind, words, and body are not counteracted through proper atonement, prashchita, according to the description of the Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras, one will certainly enter the hellish planets after death and undergo terrible suffering, as I previously described to you. So now Shukadeva Goswami is testing. So he's saying, if before one's next death, for whatever pious acts one has performed with mind, words, and body, they have to be counteracted through prashchita. And where is this prashchita described? Which is described in Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras. If one doesn't do that, one will certainly enter hellish planets after death. Otherwise, if one does prayaschitta, he can be forgiven. Okay. So Prabhupada is directly talking about Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport. So I will let's read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport first. Testing the proficiency of his student Parikshit to understand his opinion on the matter, Shukadeva first gives the process of atonement according to karma in two verses, this one and the next. If one does not perform atonement for sins committed by mind, words, or actions, singly or together, one attains hell with terrible pain. Before death, quickly one should do this. Otherwise, if there is much delay, one must perform double the atonement because the condition will be twice as serious. Mm. One should do this while the body is without affliction. When the body is diseased, it is impossible to perform atonements. One should search out an expert in Dharma Shastra who can decide what should be done, just as one approaches a doctor who can see the seriousness or insignificance of a disease. So this is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has written. Prabhupada is saying, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions that although Parikshit Maharaj was a pure devotee, Shukadeva Goswami did not immediately speak to him about the strength of devotional service. Krishna has already spoken in Bhagavad Gita, Mam cha yogya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate, sagunan samatite tan brahma bhoyaya kalpate. The reactions of his sinful life immediately stop. When devotional service is so strong that if one fully surrenders to Krishna and takes fully to his devotional service, reactions of his sinful life immediately stop. So important thing here, these two. If one fully surrenders to Krishna and takes fully to his devotional service, reactions of his sinful life immediately stop. Immediately stop. Actually, this is the mood in which one has to take Diksha. Diksha kale bhakta kare atma samarpan se kale Krishna kare tare atma sam. Krishna makes him equal to him. That is Brahma Bhuya, Brahma Bhuta state. But what should be the mood of the devotee taking initiation? Full surrender to Guru and willing to take a fully devotional service, meaning no sense enjoyment. Absolutely no sense enjoyment. Just life is completely dedicated for Krishna and fully surrendered state. And then the actions of one's sinful life immediately stop. Immediately stop. Karmani nirdhati gintu cha bhakti bhajam. All our karma is destroyed. Elsewhere in the Gita, Lord Krishna urges that one give up all other duties and surrender unto him. Ham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayashyami. And he promises, I shall free you from all sinful reactions and give you liberation. Therefore, in response to inquiries of Parikshit Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami could have immediately explained the principle of bhakti. But to test Parikshit Maharaj's intelligence, he first described atonement according to Karma Kanda. For Karma Kanda, there are 80 authorized scriptures, Prabhupada is saying, such as Manu Samhita, which are known as Dharma Shastras. In the scriptures, one is advised to counteract his sinful acts by performing other types of fruitive action. This was the path first recommended by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit, and actually it is a fact that one who does not take to devotional service must follow the decision of the scriptures by performing pious acts to counteract impious acts. This is known as atonement. And doing pious acts to counteract impious acts is known as atonement. One who doesn't take to the path of bhakti, he has to perform this, otherwise he will go to hell. But Parikshit Maharaj was a devotee, and Shukadev Goswami could have directly explained the path of bhakti. But he is testing. He's testing his disciple. Tasmat puraivaashva iha papa niskritau yateta mrityor padyatatmana doshasya drishtva gurulaghavam yatha vishakchikitsa kitseta rujam nidanavit. Therefore, before one's next death comes, as long as one's body is strong enough, one should quickly adopt to the process of atonement according to Shastra. Otherwise, one's time will be lost and the reactions of his sins will increase. As an expert physician diagnoses and treats a disease according to its gravity, one should undergo atonement according to the severity of one's sins. Dharma Shastras prescribe that a man who has committed murder should be hanged and his own life sacrificed in atonement. Previously, this system was followed all over the world, but since people are becoming atheists, they're stopping capital punishment. This is not wise. Herein it is said that a physician who knows how to diagnose a disease prescribes medicine accordingly. If the disease is very serious, medicines must be strong. The weight of a murderer's sin is very great, and therefore, according to Manu Samhita, a murderer must be killed. By killing a murderer, the government shows mercy to him, because if a murderer is not killed in this life, he will be killed and forced to suffer many times in future lives. See, he'll be killed and forced to suffer many times. But if he just killed by the laws of the government, He is only killed once in this life and it is done. Since people do not know about the next life and the intricate workings of nature, they manufacture their own laws, but they should properly consult the established injunctions of the Shastras and act accordingly. In India, even today, the Hindu community often takes advice from expert scholars regarding how to counteract sinful activities and astrologers. In Christianity, also, there's a process of confession and atonement. Therefore, atonement is required and atonement must be undergone according to the gravity of one's sinful acts. Okay, so I think I'll stop here because what the now the hmm, okay, actually two more shlokas we'll read. Sri Rajovacha दृष्टश्रुताभ्यां यत् पापं जानन् अप्यात्मनो हितं करोति भूयो विवशः प्रायश्चित्तम् अथो कथम्. Maharaj Parikshit said, one may know that the sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by people in general, and because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. So, two things he's saying. One is in this life, he will suffer by the rule laws of the government. In future life, he will suffer because of laws of material nature. Hmm. One knows this. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? Mataji, I'll just finish these two verses, then we can discuss. In some religious sects, a sinful man goes to a priest to confess his sinful acts and pay a fine in Christianity. But then he again commits the same sins and returns to confess them again. This is the practice of a professional sinner. Parikshit Maharaj's observations indicate that even 5,000 years ago, it was a practice of criminals to atone for their crimes, but then commit the same crimes again, as if forced to do so. Arjuna also asked this, Atakkena preptoyam papam chariti purushaha anichanapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha, saying, why are people forced to do wrong things? Therefore, owing to his practical experience, Parikshit Maharaj saw that the process of repeatedly sinning atoning is pointless. Regardless of how many times he is punished, one who is attached to sense enjoyment will commit sinful acts again and again until he is trained to refrain from enjoying his senses. The word vivasha is indicating that one is helpless, does not want to commit sinful, but is forced to do so by habit. Parikshit Maharaj therefore considered the process of atonement to have little value for saving one from sinful acts. In the following verse, he further explains his rejection of this process. Yeah. So actually, the question here is that he is thinking, Parikshit Maharaj is thinking, uh, so person commits the same sin again. So how does atonement destroy sin? Because the important thing is that the sin has to be destroyed. If only the sin is destroyed, he will not commit it again. But the sin is not destroyed. Propensity to sin is still there. So what is the use of this atonement? Sometimes one who is very expert so as not to commit sinful acts is victimized by sinful life again. I therefore consider this process of repeated sinning and atoning to be useless. It's like the bathing of an elephant, for an elephant cleanses itself by taking full bath, but then throws dust over its head and body as soon as it returns to land. Mm. So in this way, Shukadeva Goswami tested the intelligence of Maharaj Parikshit, who passed the examination by refusing to accept this process genuine. Now Parikshit Maharaj is expecting another answer from his spiritual master. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, sometimes in youth one refrains from sin, but again one commits the sin in old age. Therefore atonement is useless. Mm. So most important thing is here is that atonement is just begging forgiveness for sin committed. So he will be freed from that suffering, but he will again commit sin. So the propensity to commit sin is not destroyed by atonement, uh, and that is the concern. So like Prabhupada here said that regardless of how many times he is punished, one is attached to sense enjoyment will commit sinful acts again. So this attachment to sense enjoyment has to go, which is actually the seed of sin. Mm. So What is the use of this? That's what Parikshit is asking. Okay, so I'll stop here. If you have any questions, we can discuss. Yeah, Sumantra Mataji, you had something to say?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, like Indra, he commits an offense, like he against his guru, but then
Uh-huh.
he immediately realizes it.
Yeah.
And Krishna also helps him to get out of it, gets back his name, fame, and all that.
Uh-huh.
Now, and then but he's still called a devotee.
Yeah.
Right. So प्रभु like आप गुरु अपराध करते हैं या बार बार करते हैं, or if you do something, are you still
Mm.
called? Of course Krishna says from wherever you left I pick up and go, that's it. But when you do a guru apradh, I mean, when you ask for forgiveness, you do atonement, it's different. But if you don't and you give up your guru, is that, are you still called a devotee?
No, if you give up your guru, then how can you be called a devotee? But
Then
you
you're not.
can temporarily be in some illusion or make a mistake. But the important thing is to actually realize the mistake and act, to either repent, beg for forgiveness, follow the Guru's lotus feet. I mean, the mindset should be that I have made a mistake, and that realization. See, that is why api chet su duracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak. Uh, but those who are ananya, who are actually completely dependent on the Supreme Lord, duracharo, even if they do some durachara, some bad action, Krishna is saying sadhureva hi mantavya. Samyak vyavasito hi saha. Sadhureva hi mantavya. Why? Because in the next verse he says, very quickly he overcomes those anarthas by further dedicating himself. So actually for a devotee, when we commit mistakes, we have to recognize it, repent for it, and earnestly try to overcome it very sincerely. Mm. Actually, to this, okay, when this is an important point, so I wanted to say something in this connection. Um, See, when devotees have fully surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna and they want to achieve perfection, they're very serious about achieving perfection. Mm. But and yes, when we actually surrender in that mood, the time of initiation, then Guru takes away all our karma phala. All old karmas are gone. Karma phala is gone. So actually, karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. So all our karma phala is destroyed. So actually, we should not have any suffering. We should not have any suffering. Okay, but we still see devotees suffering. What is the reason for sadhaka bhaktas to be suffering? So the reason for sadhaka bhaktas to be suffering is the anarthas in their heart. So it could be two things. It could be anarthas. It could be Vaishnava aparad. Okay. So for both, Krishna will intervene if we are sincere. That's his mercy. That's his causeless mercy. Uh, so that's why Krishna is considered partial. Because he will intervene in the life of a devotee because the devotee has come to him. Of course, that intervention is not independent of the devotee's mood of actually wanting to overcome his problems. That is, if a devotee actually sincerely desires Krishna, Krishna will intervene. And that intervention will come as a punishment. Because that's the only way we learn. Unfortunately, we are so foolish that we learn only by suffering. Uh, so when we suffer and we realize that my suffering is not because of my karma phala. Actually, the suffering of a surrendered devotee is not karma phala. The suffering of a surrendered devotee is anartha or aparadha. And anartha results in more sins that will commit more sins. Krishna is not bothered too much about the sins as much as the anarthas, because with those anarthas we cannot achieve him. So he will intervene and he will. Um, so in such a devotee will experience something which looks like karma phala, and it will somewhat align with our uh, birth chart also. So in some sense, if you go to a astrologer and show, he will say, yes, 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 you have very bad time now. So Krishna kind of aligns his rectification in line with our Janma Kundali also, horoscope. Mm. So it looks exactly like our karma phala. It has all those symptoms of suffering that we were supposed to go through, but which have actually been destroyed. Uh, this is just to rectify us, just to rectify us. Mm. And the more we retain anarthas post initiation, the more we will suffer. Mm. But this is, we should understand, not the suffering of a karmi or a non devotee. So, in all our suffering, we should only see the hands of Krishna, saying, Krishna is fixing me. Mm. So, through lives of great devotees like Indra, they are devotees, they have, but because they are Mishra Bhaktas, they have material contamination, which is shown how it manifests, even, offending Krishna, offending Guru, extremes. They are just, Shastra is trying to show us, saying that, if we retain these anarthas, we could just destroy ourselves. But because Indra is also fortunate that he's in such an important position, he's taken up such an important seva that Krishna every time protects him. Uh, and every time, but the difference is that uh, at least in one instance, like Govardhana Puja, uh, there is no wholehearted repentance from Indra, and so again he commits offense when Krishna comes to Swarga and he takes Parijata. Mm. So there are various things to learn. So we have to be very, very sincere, and in sincerely we have to repent for any sins committed because of our anarthas. And see, actually, devotional life, is like that. Like initial years of our bhakti, it almost looks like we become purified. It almost looks like we are just now ready for love of God. You also experience a lot of these, very nice feelings of love for Krishna. If you are doing bhakti seriously, but then we go through, then see the reality, then manifests. Our anarthas start coming out. Our anarthas will be there at that point, not fully destroyed, but because of the force of devotional service, it actually almost becomes like goes into the background without us even noticing that it is there. But then as life goes on, our intensity kind of goes down a little bit, and due to force of situations, circumstances, etc., then these things start manifesting. Then they are deeply still in the heart and they keep coming out. And then we go through suffering in our life. But then we have to remember that this suffering is just simply Krishna's mercy. It's not the normal suffering. It's not normal suffering. It's just Krishna's mercy. Krishna can stop it at any point of time when he realizes that, okay, devotee is actually repenting, making effort, putting effort. He sincerely desires to come out, and he's also trying not to repeat, and helplessly dependent on him. Then Krishna not only first cleanses the heart, then the suffering stops. So this is what we need to learn from the lives of all pure devotees. And of course, Indra is a semi position of a semi devotee because he's a Mishra Bhakta. So from Indra we can learn lessons for devotees as well as non-devotees, both, or mixed devotees. So yeah, multiple things. This actually the sixth canto is super interesting. A lot of things which we'll learn. Okay, is that okay, Mataji?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Um, so, the bottom line is, if you commit Guru Aparadh, then you, if you unintentionally do it, or like if you do it and then you ask forgiveness, हो जाता है. पर अगर आप बार-बार करोगे तो you're not called.
Yeah, because if we do an offense and if we actually genuinely don't think that we are wrong, right? But
Yes,
then we know that okay, this is going to result in major issue in my life. So just for the sake of getting over those problems, we might go and just fall at the
Mm.
lotus feet of Guru. And Guru is so merciful; he will just say, "Okay, fine, no problem, don't repeat it." Right? But the offensive mentality is still there. The offensive mentality has not gone. Then we are in trouble. So you know what Parikshit prayed? Does anybody remember Parikshit in the 19th chapter of the first canto? He prays when he comes to know that he's been, that he's going to die in 7 days. His prayers are worth remembering for all of us. Very scary prayers, but very, very important actually. Let me just open that. Attitude. Hmm. So this is 19th chapter, verse 2. Mm. So verse 2 and 3. King Parikshit thought, due to my neglecting the injunctions of the Supreme Lord, because he committed offense against a Brahmana. Hmm. I must certainly expect some difficulty to overcome in the near future. So he's saying I did a mistake and I must certainly expect because Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hidayacha. So I've done something wrong. So I should definitely expect some difficulty to overcome me, meaning not something which I'll be able to manage. It will overcome me in the near future, not sometime, not in the next life, in the near future, immediately. So now what Parikshit Maharaj is saying, I now desire without reservation that the calamity come now. I desire without reservation, wholeheartedly. I want that calamity to come now. Why? For in this way, I may be freed of the sinful action, not the reaction. He is not wanting to get rid of the reaction. He is not wanting to get rid of the suffering. He is not wanting to get over that sin and the what is that? That he's going to die. He's not wanting to overcome death. Mm, that chapa. He's not wanting to counteract that. He's saying, I may be freed from the sinful action of what I did and not commit such an offense again. So he's desiring punishment so that he will be freed from that sinful action and will not commit that again. Not sinful reaction. Please note this. And he's saying in the next verse, he's saying, I wish that my kingdom, strength, riches burn up immediately by the fire of Brahmana's wrath, so that in the future I may not be guided by such inauspicious attitudes. Very, very important. Very, very important. See, this is what actually the whole discussion now is going to be. How atonement is useless and why Harinama and Bhakti. Because Bhakti can actually burn the seed of sin, but atonement cannot burn the seed of sin. And so Parikshit Maharaj here is praying, let that punishment come to me. Hmm. Let it burn everything. But the important thing is that offensive attitude, that inauspicious attitude, I should lose at any cost. How bold. Hmm. Actually, yeah, initially we might feel that it is bold, but actually it is so intelligent, so intelligent. Like Kunti Maharani prays, right? Again and again, let these calamities happen. Mm. So that we will see. And when we have your darshanam, uh, then apunar bhava darshanam. Then this darshana of this material world will stop. So we should be sensible in our devotion. Understand that we are in the protection of Krishna. We should take full advantage of that. So if we have anarthas in our heart, if we are because of those anarthas, we are we are ending up doing either sinful acts or offensive acts. Mm. We should really pray to Krishna saying that Krishna, I don't want this. Please take away this inauspicious attitude. And Krishna will oblige and give you some punishment. We should not be afraid of that punishment because Krishna will not give that, is not giving that punishment to break us. Krishna is giving that punishment to help us, to raise us. He's wanting to raise us. So he's holding our hand. when he gives that punishment. So we should not be afraid. We should just look at the smiling face of Krishna and just say, okay, Krishna is in control. Eh, for me, it might look like some, unmanageable situation. But no, Krishna is in full control. And he's giving this just to raise me from my fallen state. It's the great mercy of Krishna. That's the mood of a devotee. That's the mood of a sincere devotee. That he doesn't. That's why he feels, oh, I should have suffered more for the nonsense that I've done. But Krishna is so merciful that as a Suradam, as the friend, as a master, as the father, he is just standing with us. Patiently, compassionately, with full of love, he's just handholding us and helping us, raise from the ditch we have fallen into. So nice, right? So this has to be the mood of devotees when, especially surrender devotees. Like I said, it's not if bhakti, not if Krishna is not the goal of our life, then I don't know what Krishna does. That's not very clear to me. But those who have surrendered, those who are very clear that their goal is Krishna, and but then their anarthas have become obstacles, and if we want it to be removed, uh, then Krishna will intervene. That okay? Don't be afraid.
It's gone slightly over the head, Prabhu. I've not been able to grasp it, but I'm just like the little
What
I've
can I
understood.
re-explain?
No, 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 no. Because प्रभु अभी जैसे अगर atonement करते हो, तो you're still punished, but the
No, we are not
severity.
doing atonement,
No, no,
Mataji. We are not doing
no,
atonement.
no, no. I'm just asking you.
Okay.
Suppose you do atonement, the severity of the punishment comes down, but you're still
Mm-hmm.
punished. But
Correct.
you still have to undergo the karmic cycle of that punishment, right?
No,
But
it
if you're
depends. It depends on the seriousness of the offense, of
offense,
the sin.
and but you're in if a like when you surrender and you ask for atonement, and if you are punished also, but then you don't again go like you don't.
Oh, no, no, no. This is not for a devotee. So this we will discuss as we go forward. Atonement is not for a devotee.
Okay.
Okay. This is only, like Prabhupada said, for those who are not taken up to devotional service, atonement is mandatory. What a devotee has to do, we will discuss. That is what is going to get discussed in the next verses, next whole 3 chapters. Right?
And Prabhu, somebody keeps doing, like somebody is a bhakta, is doing bhakti, but again and again, if he does this thing, like offenses karte hain, to
Now, is it offense or sin?
okay, that the difference between
There's
an
a big
offense.
difference between those two.
Yes. Oh, yes, got it.
Okay. Yeah, Shashank Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
Pranam Prabhu.
Pranam.
Prabhu, when a devotee is surrendered, so to remove anartha, always Krishna will
No,
intervene in
no,
form of punishment only, na?
no. Oh, no, devotee is intelligent. He can just by Shravanam and sincere practice of devotional service overcome anarthas. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be manifest as punishment. Punishment is when we are struggling and we have some anartha which is deep rooted, and in spite of all our sadhana, our seva, our sincere attitude, in spite of everything, of course, not everything, because of course we will still be doing offensive chanting. We will have those anarthas will actually become obstacle in our devotion some way, and we are not able to overcome those. Then mercifully Krishna will intervene,
Okay.
especially when that attitude becomes offensive, meaning it starts to actually start affecting our devotion. Krishna will intervene.
Okay. So it is not always in the form of
No, no, don't
punishment.
worry.
Yeah. I got a bit scared only.
You should not get scared. See, this
Yeah.
is the point I'm trying to make. Even if Krishna intervenes and gives punishment, what is the problem? It's like parents chastising children. Should children be afraid of parents because they're chastising them? No, we should be happy, saying that, oh, my father is correcting me so that I don't go wrong. So why are we afraid of punishments? Being afraid of punishments, running away from punishments is itself an anartha.
Oh,
So don't run away. Because why is it an anartha? Because it is you want like your happiness. It's an illusion, right? Saying materially, if everything is okay, then I'm good in this material world. That's an illusion. What is important is our heart gets cleansed and we are ready to go back to Krishna. That's the ultimate goal, isn't it?
Yeah, bro.
So why are we worried about not suffering? Or why are we worried about suffering? If that suffering is going to help us clean ourselves and go to Krishna, what is the problem?
Correct, bro. True.
So don't run away from suffering. I did this. That's why I'm saying I did this, and but I was forced to go through all this suffering because I thought, okay, I'm a devotee. Let me live a happy life. And Krishna said, no, that's not going to help you get out of this material world. So take this.
Okay, bro.
But it's just understand. It's not just like. So how do I explain this? Okay, so let me just graph little bit more explain what is the difference between possibly karmic suffering and suffering under that a devotee undergoes. Karmic suffering, if suppose there is no, like say suppose somebody has to suffer for 10 years, he will suffer for 10 years. There is no reduction in that. Okay. But a devotee, maybe it looks like there is no solution to his problem. you know, but what problem doesn't have a solution in Krishna? So if Krishna wants, overnight it can change, right? So it's not in the control of what we are doing to overcome our problem. For example, somebody is sick, they are taking medicines. Now, for a normal karmi, it is his medicine which is his way to come out of that karma phala. But for a devotee, it's not that karma, it's not that medicine. What is it that is going to take him out of that? His repentance, his mood of, surrender, his humility. And then Krishna, without need for any medicine, can change the situation. So we are not actually dependent on material solutions also for our material problems when Krishna is actually doing these things for a devotee. So it's very very different. It's a different world, protected world of Krishna. So don't worry, don't have to be afraid.
Okay, bro.
And that's how we will become more dependent on Krishna. We will realize that yes, Krishna is there in my life. I have more faith. I trust Krishna. I know that he loves me. How will we realize all these things? That's how children realize, right? Love of parents.
Yeah, bro.
When children are in difficulty, parents stand by them, help them, guide them, and then children are so happy. Yes, my father and mother are there. I don't have to worry about anything. That's the devotee's position. And of course, he also knows that, okay, my father is there, my friend is there, Krishna is there. I should also live, as per his expectation. I should meet his expectation, exceed his expectation, please him by the way I live. It's a game changer. This thought process is a game changer. It changes our life. Okay, anyway, so this whole chapter is about such discussion. So, so we will continue. We don't have to. It's very, very important. You can even tell anybody else who might want to, because to me, this is the central, actually, more than 10th canto. These three chapters are, and this canto itself is very, very important for devotees, especially these three chapters. Okay,
Okay, bro.
we will
Thanks,
stop
bro.
here. Yeah, we'll continue tomorrow. Krishna willing. Okay, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samveta Gaura Bhakta ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.